It's probably an on button. Hi everyone, you can just take your seats, that's amazing, thank you. I'd just like to introduce Paulina Trevena, please. Thank you.
Hello. Hey everyone, and so glad you're here. I'm never sure because they tend to give me this big stage before the big shots, and I'm never quite sure if people are already holding seats for Paul McKenna 2 hours later or what.
We never do that.
Never do that, right? Okay, great. So you're all here for me. I'm chuffed. But thank you so much for your interest in Aphantasia. And my name's Paulina Trevena, and I'm an Aphantasic. And in a moment, I'll rather than tell you, I'll show you what that means. But first of all, just to clarify, I'm a doctor of social sciences, okay? Not a GP, not an MD, in case anybody's wondering. And also social scientist, not neuroscientist. So if you have any questions about the structure of the brain or whatever, don't ask me, okay? Because that will be a disaster. And in a moment, I'll take you through what aphantasia is and what techniques I have found so far best in working with aphantasic clients. I don't think we'll have time for questions, but I am going to be around. I'm going to be in that corridor. I'm going to stay here for Paul McKenna, Sean Andrews. So I will be around. You can ask me questions anytime. And towards the end, there'll be a QR code to a resource that you can download, and you'll get some tips there for like an explanation what aphantasia is and some tips for working with clients, a kind of general framework. So before I go in, well, let's just dive right in. So first of all, could you just all take a deep breath in and out, and as you breathe out, just close your eyes for me for a moment. And I'd just like you all to picture a red apple in your mind's eye. Picture it as vividly as you can. Got it? Okay. And open your eyes and have a look at this. So this is a very, very simplified graph of the human imagination. And we're all somewhere else on the spectrum. And I'd just like to ask, first of all, who here is a 5 and sees that apple in their mind's eye as clearly as in real life? Do you know what? I am always baffled because you guys are not typical. This is called hyperphantasia. If you can see something as clearly as in real life, it's not the typical imagery ability. You're above that. And it's 6 to 11% of the population who can visualize this well. So I'd just like you to bear in mind that you are much better visualizers than most of the population, okay? And who was like between a 4 and a 3, or a 4 or a 3, so you can see something not as clearly as in real life, but you can see it clearly enough, and you can see it, but maybe black and white. Who's a 3? So that would be the kind of quite typical imagery ability, visual imagery ability, right? And who is a 2? So you can just about barely work out, so there's a few to choose. So you guys can be borderline aphantasic. So you're just not very good visualizers, right? Maybe, I don't know if you can hold on to this image for longer or not. Some people have really fleeting images, but it's still so you're kind of borderline aphantasic. And then who's like a 1 and cannot see anything at all, just black there? Yeah, that would be me as well. So we have aphantasia understood as visual aphantasia, okay? And again, it's about 4% of the population that have aphantasia understood either as weak or no mental imagery, like no visual imagery at all. And about 1% are the people who just can't see anything completely black. So it's not a big percentage, but I'd just like to point out that most of the population does not have, an excellent visual ability. It's a kind of, for some people it's okay, for some people it's less than okay, but not as vivid, but most people cannot see things as clearly as in real life. However, and I want to underline this, because who has actually heard of aphantasia before? Whoa! I'm proud of you guys. Who has heard about it from me? Cool. Getting the word out there. Really happy about that. But when you hear about aphantasia, what do you usually hear about? What have you guys heard it is? Does anybody want to volunteer? Inability to visualize, yes. Yeah?
I've heard of mention of other related, a audioizing or a smellizing, whatever.
Right. Okay, so let's just do another. So it's not just about visualization. I'd really like you to bear that in mind. So let's just do another short exercise. I'd just ask you to close your eyes for a moment again for me. And this time, just imagine you're on a beach. You're on the beach. Maybe you've got a basket with those apples. You're on a beach. It's a really nice, warm day. It's a light breeze on your face. And I'd just like you to imagine that you're touching the sand. Just feel that warmth of the sand, those little grains of sand. And then I'd like you to tune to the sound of waves. And just really tune into that beautiful, calming sound of waves. And then I'd like you to smell the sea air. That really beautiful, fresh sea air. You can take a deep breath in and just smell it. And then I'd just like you to imagine that somebody you know is walking up to you with an ice cream. And I don't know what flavor it is, but it's your favorite. And I'd like you to imagine that you're just taking your arm out to grab that ice cream, and then just have a lick. Just imagine that taste. Just feel into that taste for a moment. Okay, great. And deep breath in. Open your eyes. Oh, in and out. Open your eyes. Okay, so let's have a quick show of hands. So who here could actually feel that sand, touching that sand? Who could? Most of you. Who couldn't? A few. Okay, a few people. What about the sound of waves? Who here could actually hear that sound? Again, most of you. And who couldn't? Okay, a few people as well. And what about the smell of that sea air? Who could smell that air? Okay, who couldn't? Wow, smell seems to be a weird one. Quite a lot of people couldn't smell it. And what about who could feel like reaching out for that ice cream? Okay, and who couldn't? Okay, a few people again. And who could actually taste that ice cream? Yeah, I'm a bit jealous sometimes of you guys. Okay, and who couldn't? So again, quite a few people. And I don't know, who was here in Tim's talk the other day, Tim Boxer's talk? So I paid attention to one thing. Dipti was here, and she asked him, she said, he was doing the ideomotor responses, like, with your subconscious, communicating, are your fingers moving? And Dipti said to him, my fingers aren't moving at all. And then Tim said, oh no, mine aren't at all. Guess what? Mine weren't at all. And guess what? Frederick's weren't. And yes, Toby's weren't. And guess what? We're all aphantasic. And that's something that I'd like to draw your attention to as well, that aphantasia is not just about the visual sense, it's about the other senses at all. And much to my surprise, actually, very recently, it has turned out that it doesn't even need to be about the visual. That there are some people who can visualize, but they cannot tap into other forms of mental imagery. So now, when aphantasia was first described in 2015, we just talked about the visual sense, and most statistics are related to the visual sense. But now we know we can discriminate different types of aphantasia. So we have single sense aphantasia. In just one sense, it can be visualization, it can be something else, it can be smell. Multisensory, more than one sense, but not all of them. And then we have global aphantasia. So people who don't have access to any internal sense at all, including the motor sense, so including the sense of movement. And who here is a global aphantasic, apart from me? A few people. So I think these are probably the people for whom maybe hypnosis has been as frustrating as me when I started training in hypnosis, because I'm here talking to you not just because I'm aphantasic. I knew about it years earlier. I realized during a psychotherapy session, funnily enough. But it was when I started training in hypnosis that suddenly this inability came up as a problem. and really threw me off. Like, I stopped training at some point because I thought, I can't do any of this. And very quickly, I gained the reputation of being a difficult subject. And if anybody knows me, they know the last thing I like to be is to be difficult, right? But it was really frustrating, both for me and for the people who were like trying to do the hypnosis for me. And that's when I realized, you know, a lot of these standard techniques that we have just do not work for people like me. And I'm like, no, let's do it in a way that we can involve everybody and not, you know, not kind of just do hypnosis in a way that's good for the visualizers, but maybe not so, and the ones who can tap into other internal senses, maybe, but no, not so much for people like me. And that's why I'm on a bit of a mission talking about it around the world, because I really want us in our profession to understand that it's a thing. And the importance of understanding it's a thing is that a lot of people are like me and have no idea they're any different than anybody else. Because we don't usually, it's not a dinner conversation to say, oh, how do you picture things in your mind's eye? You know, so when at the grand age of 45, I suddenly realized most of the world could visualize, I was shocked. I actually didn't believe it. I was just like, what? People can see things, like on a computer screen, they can see things? I didn't believe it was a thing. And I went back home, I went on Facebook, asked my Facebook friends. Sure enough, most of them said, oh yeah, I can see that apple. And I was like, what? Okay, right? So I'd just like you to realize that some of your clients, especially the ones that appear resistant maybe, or not really wanting to follow the process, maybe you think they're not ready, they might just not be able to do what you're asking them to do. And because we're not aware, a lot of us are not aware we're any different than anybody else, we might not even pick up on the reason why we're finding hypnosis so difficult. Because we don't realize that other people can actually see this stuff, right? So, so that's what I would like you to understand about aphantasia. And then, as somebody mentioned, it's also linked to some other stuff. So, as I said, about 4% has it. You can have congenital. Most of us have congenital, so aphantasia from birth. But some people have acquired aphantasia during their lifetime. And that can happen due to a brain injury. It can also happen because of some trauma, PTSD, depression. So mental imagery can be linked to depressive states. But please don't assume that all people with aphantasia have been through trauma, because for most of us, it's a neurodivergence, and it's seen as a neutral neurodivergence. So it's a neurodivergence, same as autism or ADHD, but it's seen as a neutral condition. It's not seen as some kind of problematic condition. A really important thing is that for most of us, cognition isn't affected. We're intellectually able to do stuff, right? And some of us have even better spatial awareness than visualizers. We're very good with spatial awareness. However, a lot of people with aphantasia also have what is called severely deficient autobiographical memory, meaning that we cannot remember much from our past, not many specific events. So, for example, I have it. I'll remember what school I went to. I'll remember, my classmates, most of them at least. But if somebody asks me about a specific event from the past, I'm just like, I draw a blank. And it doesn't matter if I'm in hypnosis or not in hypnosis. And that's something, again, that I would really like you to kind of understand, that some people with aphantasia will not be able to regress to a memory because they can't find the memory. There just seems to be nothing there. And emotions, we process emotions differently. That, for example, demonstrates in terms of 10 minutes. PTSD, I'd better get a move on. And and there's links with other neurodivergences. Okay, I need to get a move on. So let's get a move on. Because I wanted to show you some techniques, some ways that I work with people and have worked best for me. So before I do that, I'd just like to say, so I hope you now understand that everybody imagines things differently. And that's fine, that's okay. So for some people, when they start imagining a thing, it starts with a sound, or maybe a picture, or just a thought, or something else entirely, or maybe a concept. And that is fine. And I keep explaining to people that hypnosis doesn't have to be about visualization. It's not necessary. It's not necessary to visualize. It doesn't necessarily You don't necessarily need to feel movement or anything, because it's not about that. It's about connecting with your emotions rather than having to connect with a picture. If somebody can picture things, yeah, great, let them connect that way. But if they can't, there are other ways. And however, your experience hypnosis is fine, right? So you don't have to be really deep. You don't have to, as I say, don't have to see any images. You just experience it in any way that works for you. It's all about having this ability to change and kind of tuning into that. Do you guys see what I've just done? That is usually something that I do. Whoops, I'll just skip this one. In the pre-talk. Because a really, really important part of working with people with aphantasia is setting positive expectations. Because often they have tripped up during hypnosis or psychotherapy where they've been asked to visualize. They might not even know why they've tripped up, right? Because they might not recognize that they're aphantasic. So that's why I'd really like you to use the imaginary kind of exercises we did in the beginning to recognize how people actually tune into their internal senses. But for me, it's really important just to set the pre-talk as widely as possible so that people cannot fail, so that they feel that whatever happens, it is fine and it's still hypnosis. And a lot of people, you know, they have friends or they've heard about people saying about, oh, and I've had all these images and I saw myself doing this and that and the other. So they've got this expectations very often that that's what hypnosis is about and that's how it should be done. And it's kind of our job to say, nah, whichever way you experience it, it's fine, just to set them up so that they cannot fail. Whatever happens, it's fine. So that's the first thing. Second thing, language is really, really, really important. So a lot of people with aphantasia, most of us, are highly analytical, highly logical thinkers. So if you tell us to see something, even if we know we can't see it, we will be trying. So that's why the kind of vague language, right? Things like notice what you notice. Imagine any way that works for you. And some people will object to the word imagine because they think imagine equals image. Not me, but some people. So it's worth tuning in and asking them. Things like get a sense of something, become aware of what's there, or just think, because we're all thinkers, right? We all think. So language is important so that, again, you kind of set things up so broadly that people feel that they cannot fail. And then in terms of inductions, like the longer I work with people with aphantasia, the more I'm moving into kinesthetic or somatic inductions and confusion inductions. For two reasons. If you're doing something somatic, it's working with the body and it's working in the here and now. You're not asking them to imagine anything. They're not asking people to imagine any sensations in the body. You're going with what they're actually feeling in that moment in time. And then they feel that they are in the process because, you know, we can tune into our body, we can tune into our breath. Confusion inductions are one of my favorites because, as I said, a lot of people with aphantasia are highly analytical thinkers, including myself. So I really love confusion inductions, the type where you just kind of talk complete nonsense at someone. So, you know, it's so generic that your brain just kind of switches off because they're like, I can't listen to this any longer, right? So maybe and do you guys know the 5-9 induction? Do you know that one? No, yes, okay. Do you know what? Let me just take you very, very shortly through how I start my work, and I'll just explain it shortly. How much time do I have? 5 minutes. Or maybe not. Maybe I'll just explain it because 5 minutes is not that much. Sorry about that. So the 5-9 induction is great because it combines confusion and working with your body. So you say that, you know, in psychology, there's this theory that there are 5 to 9 things that we can hold in our mind at any one time. For some people, it's 5. For some people, it's 9. On average, 7. But you can't hold on to more than 9 things. And then you take people through a process where you're taking them through a list of things to hold in their mind. And I go with all the things that they can actually, feel in the body. So I'll say the first thing, you know, close your eyes. The first thing that I'd like you to think about is the fact that your eyes are closed. And I'd just like you to tune into that feeling that your eyes are closed and just relax and feel how wonderful it is that your eyes are closed. And the second thing is just your breath and how it just feels to breathe, to feel alive, to feel that heart beating just for you. So now you're thinking about two things, the fact that your eyes are closed and the fact that you're breathing and how wonderful it is just to breathe. Then the third thing I'd like you to think about is just the sound of my voice as it helps you go deeper and deeper, deeper into hypnosis. So now you're thinking about three things. The fact that your eyes are closed, the beating of your heart and how that feels, and my voice and how it relaxes you more and more, deeper and deeper relaxed, right? And then you go through this whole list, you make up 8 things, and it can be the feeling of your clothes, it can be the feeling of your hair against your head, things that you can actually feel here in the now. And then you get to 9, and you say, and the 9th thing I'd like you to think about is just how wonderful it would be to let go of the other 8 things and just allow yourself to relax. And by that time, they're usually so bored that they just go into hypnosis, basically, and they're tuning into their body, right? So that's one of my favorite ones. And then in terms of the main therapeutic method, I'm working more and more with breath work and anything that's kinesthetic. So even if it's like the NLP kind of techniques of feel into your body, like find the feeling and make it into something and move it out of your body, it might be surprising, but it works quite well for a lot of people with aphantasia. And I think it's for 2 reasons. First of all, it's kinesthetic. So it's kind of just imagining you're moving things through your body. And second of all, it leaves you free rein to make shit up. And we can all imagine. It's just we don't imagine visually. Sometimes we don't imagine in terms of the other senses. And then I very often go to parts work. I usually do a kind of confusion induction or a somatic induction and then just dive into breath work if that's appropriate. And I'll use a lot of direct suggestions, just repeating back what people want, and also metaphors for some people. And again, this kind of depends on the person because everybody is different. And a lot of people with aphantasia have either ADHD or autism, so you kind of have to really work with the person. Everybody is different. And the last tip is sometimes I tune into other techniques. So EFT tapping, for example, I find it really good. IEMT, but for a lot of people, without asking them to go back to a memory. Because if somebody can't go back to a memory, I'm not going to even try to get them there. But I might work with an emotion they're feeling in that particular moment in time. So I might use IEMT for that. And then props, like things they can touch, things that make them think of things. So you might give them some objects and ask them, what does that make you think of? And then from that, create a feeling or create something that they want to work on. So I sometimes do that as well. And I think I need to wrap up. So just to say that if you would like that resource, then just go to that QR code. It's a bit complicated. I'm not very good with tech. If you go down to the bottom of the page, you will see a sign up for the resource. And also just to mention, because I always forget to mention stuff, that I shall be doing a training on the 6th of December. So if anybody is interested in that, download the resource and then you'll be on my mailing list if you tick the box. So tick the box, please. Or just get back to me and just message me. And also another thing I wanted to mention is that I'm looking more and more into aphantasia and trauma. And especially in terms of acquired aphantasia, or not just aphantasia, mental imagery. And if we're working with trauma, does that change our mental imagery? Because there's some very new research coming out that's showing a link. So if anybody would like to be involved in a research project on this, hit me up, please, because I'm looking for people who would like to just report on the results with clients. So that's it. And if you would like a card with the Apple symbol so that you can use it, the graph so that you can use it with clients, and it's on the other side, it's got a QR code to the resource. I will just maybe distribute them and my helpers will. And if you could just pass them along. If you'd like them, just please keep them. If not, just give them back. and we can give other people a chance. Thank you very much. I hope that's been useful. Oh, and I'm going to be around if anybody wants to talk to me.
Thank you.
Thanks.